suspect the decision to make, or the wrong decision, at least is a decision, is better than no decision. And I'm sure you've encountered times when you've battled to get decisions from partners. We've worked with lots of different partners. Any anecdotes you've got with partners at any of the shopping centre developments? I'm sure you've got a few relating to Mall of the North.
The partners that we've partnered with over the years have all added value to the consortium of the co-ownerships. And sometimes they're private companies, other times they're REITs or companies. And we've always found a good way to work with them, and hopefully they enjoy working with us, because we certainly enjoy working with them. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's certain partners who are very good at managing property, and we like working with them because we know we can leave the management of the property to them and it's going to be done correctly. And that's a fantastic relationship. We're not good at the day-to-day rent collection. In fact, we don't do it. We outsource that. And if you can outsource to someone in whom you have absolute and utter trust, it's such a relief.
Yeah. And I also find it interesting that in most cases where we have partners, we still have an active role. In other words, we're not passive in that relation, even if we're minority shareholders. And particularly in the areas of leasing and asset management, I think our input is respected by our partners.
You've got to be aligned, though, in terms of certain things. What are those?
It's that you both want to grow the property long term. To grow the property, you've got to grow the income stream so the capital value increases. Because over time, if you develop a property, let's say 10 years ago for 1 billion rand, if the property today, 10 years later, is not 2 billion rand, you haven't done a great job. If it's, we know of certain properties that are developed at 1.45 billion 7 years ago that are now worth 800 million. That's not a property investment. That's a way of just taking your money and tearing it up.
I have a concern, and I don't know whether it's got a sound foundation or not. I'm very concerned about the listed property sector, and particularly the REITs. And I'm not an expert in the REIT legislation or anything like that, but the area that leaves me with concern is that the REIT formula is that they generate revenue from rental income, and they have to distribute a certain portion of their net earnings. And of course, with the things like COVID and a tighter economy, those income projections have been going backwards. And when you look at it, what does that do? Firstly, it leaves the management of those REITs with latitude to behave badly, because the whole measurement of the success is the growth of income, because that's what gets distributed. And the REITs are almost known as a revenue investment. They're not known as a capital investment. So it's falling short on two fronts. One is revenue production has dropped. You're not getting the same revenue throughput. But with the revenue drop, the values have dropped. So it's not working either way. It's not working in terms of growing income stream, and it's not working in terms of capital appreciation. And I have a real concern as to whether the REIT formula, as it's currently constituted, can prevail.
Well, there's been instances where there have been some REITs that are no longer REITs, still listed.
I think that's a sensible thing, because under the REIT legislation, you distribute your entire income, and you don't keep anything back for reserves that you need to enhance the property or this or that and so forth. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter how good you are at managing a property, you always need a bit of a buffer for certain things that come about. For example, during the COVID crisis, there were rents that went backwards. So if you don't have that buffer, and you've distributed it all to the shareholder, to the investment holders, not sure whether they're shareholders or what under a REIT, but the investors, you don't have that reserve.
I've got a closing comment I'd like to make, and that is that if I look back I've been just so fortunate to be involved in a stimulating, exciting, and really great industry. And I would say to particularly the younger generation in our business, love it, enjoy it, get satisfaction out of it. It is really fun, and the ability to, or the position to be exposed to some of these developments is almost unique and one that not a lot of people get. So embrace it and really enjoy it. It brings great rewards, both in terms of your personal satisfaction and financially over time. So hang in and embrace it.
I agree completely. I now have a new thing to do every time I travel the world. I recently walked the Mall of Berlin and saw this really cool slide from the third floor at the toy shop, the third floor, all the way down to the bottom, which hopefully we can look at bringing into some of our shopping centers in time. But I'd like to thank you.
Well, one last thing from my side. The thing that gives me the most satisfaction in this industry is looking at a plan and looking at a site where there's nothing other than felt, and eventually coming back at the opening of the center, seeing what's been created on the center. It's a huge satisfaction to see what you've created, a small bit of developing of South Africa in that actual mall. And that, I think, is so exciting.
And finally, Pete, thanks for 40 odd years.
Pat, thank you very much. As being my partner for 40 years.
And
it's actually, let's see now, it's 44 years now.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, we're still in it. So you know, it is nice to be able to wake up in the morning and still have that interest and so on. And you know, I look forward to some of the changes we're working on. You know, introducing, you know, maybe a couple of new shareholders and, you know, broadening the base of the younger shareholders. So, you know, certainly as a shareholder, I'm very committed to that, and I think it's in the interest of the business that we see that through as well. So thank you, Paul.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think
on
behalf of the entire Flanagan Gerard Group team, we're hugely appreciative of the mentorship that you give us. And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And I know we live in an ever-changing world, but that's the end of the Flanagan Gerard session. And podcast. So Pat Flanagan, Peter Gerard, thank you for your time. Hopefully we can do this again sometime soon, and maybe we look forward to what ideas people have that we can chat about in the industry. So thank you, ladies and gents. We'll see you sometime soon. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
I don't know where the name is.